Allie's bedroom held a secret. It loomed in the corner, draped in a heavy velvet sheet. An ornate gilded frame hinted at the treasure it concealed, a mirror, ancient and imposing. It had belonged to his grandfather, a man Allie barely remembered, yet he felt a strange pull towards the relic, a mix of fear and fascination. His grandfather, a renowned historian, had traveled the world, collecting artifacts. The mirror, he'd claimed, was special, containing echoes of the past. Allie's parents dismissed it as an old man's tale. Still, they honored his dying wish, keeping the mirror shrouded in Allie's room. Allie avoided looking at it directly. He couldn't explain the feeling. A cold shiver would run down his spine whenever he dared to glance in its direction. There was an aura about it, an unsettling presence that seemed to watch him. Even covered, it felt like a watchful eye, observing his every move. One day, curiosity overcame him. He crept towards the covered mirror. His hand trembled as he reached for the sheet. A sudden gust of wind rattled the window pane, startling him. He pulled his hand back, heart pounding in his chest. What was it about the mirror that terrified him so? Nights were the worst. The room, usually filled with the comforting glow of streetlights, would turn pitch black. Only the faint outline of the covered mirror was visible. Allie would lie awake, his imagination running wild. Was it his mind playing tricks, or did he hear whispers coming from the mirror? He started noticing shadows. They flickered at the edge of his vision, particularly when he was near the mirror. Fleeting glimpses, gone before he could focus. Were they just the usual shadows of the night or something more sinister? Allie tried to rationalize his fear. It was just an old mirror, inanimate and harmless. Yet, the unsettling feeling persisted. The temperature in the room would drop suddenly. He'd feel a prickling sensation on the back of his neck, as if someone was watching him. One particularly eerie night, he woke from a nightmare. His heart pounded in his ears. The room felt colder than usual. As he turned to his side, his gaze fell upon the covered mirror. The sheet had shifted, revealing a sliver of the reflective surface, and in that sliver, he could have sworn he saw a pair of eyes staring back at him. Allie couldn't shake the image from his mind. The eyes, filled with an ancient sadness, haunted his waking hours. He tried to convince himself it was a trick of the light, a figment of his overactive imagination, but deep down a seed of dread had been sown. He started talking to himself. At first it was just a way to fill the silence, to drown out the whispers he imagined coming from the mirror, but soon the whispers seemed to respond, faint murmurs that sent chills down his spine. One night he decided to confront his fear. He sat before the covered mirror, his heart pounding. "Who's there?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Silence. He was about to dismiss it as another trick of his mind when the sheet moved. The sheet slid off the mirror, as if pulled by an invisible hand. Allie gasped, his breath catching in his throat. Standing in the reflection was a shadowy figure, its features indistinct. The eyes, however, were unmistakable. The same sad, knowing eyes he had seen before. They seemed to pierce his soul, holding him captive in their gaze. Terror, raw and consuming, washed over him. He couldn't move, couldn't scream. He was trapped. Section 4. Trapped in the reflection. The figure in the mirror began to speak. Its voice was a low rasp, like dry leaves rustling in the wind. It spoke of forgotten times, of ancient secrets and forgotten languages. Allie couldn't understand the words, but their tone was filled with a deep longing and a chilling despair. Night after night the figure appeared, its presence growing stronger. Ali's fear gave way to a strange fascination. He felt drawn to the mirror, to the figure and its enigmatic pronouncements. He neglected his studies, his friends, his life outside the room. The mirror and its inhabitant became his sole focus. His reflection, once a familiar sight, now appeared distant, almost alien. It was as if the mirror had created a barrier between him and the real world. He was fading, becoming a shadow of his former self. His friends noticed the change. He was withdrawn, his eyes glazed over, his speech rambling and incoherent. He spoke of the figure in the mirror as if it were a real person, a confidant. They tried to talk to him, to pull him back from the brink, but he pushed them away, his attention solely focused on the ghostly reflection. Section 5. The Mirror's Curse. One day, Allie's friends found him in a trance. He was sitting before the mirror, his eyes wide and unblinking, a strange smile playing on his lips. He didn't respond to their calls, his gaze fixed on something they couldn't see. Alarmed, they called for help. The police arrived to find Allie still entranced. They tried to pull him away from the mirror, but he resisted, his strength superhuman. Suddenly he turned, his eyes blazing with an eerie light. He spoke in a language they didn't understand, his voice echoing with an unnatural resonance. Then, as quickly as it began, the struggle ended. Ali went limp, his eyes losing their unnatural glow. He collapsed to the floor, unconscious. When the paramedics checked him, they found no pulse, no sign of life. Ali was gone. The mirror remained, shrouded in mystery. Some whispered that it was cursed, a portal to a realm beyond human comprehension. Others claimed it was a conduit to forgotten memories, a repository of lost souls. Whatever the truth, the mirror stood as a silent testament to Ali's fate, a chilling reminder of the dangers of peering too deeply into the abyss.